The game is a little glitchy. Sometimes character models render in the wrong color, which isn't a huge deal, and sometimes the game fails to completely realize you finished a minigame, which is a huge deal as it'll stop a game from progressing and you'll have to reset. Thankfully, these instances are rare, but they do throw a wet blanket over the game when it does. Not that the game is exactly thrilling to begin with. Visor 3 is in this game, and he's pretty much the stereotypical wahaha villain you'd expect. You first encounter him trying to acquire DNA from a dinosaur fossil, because I guess you can do that now. A subplot is that Visor 3 is going around getting exotic Earth animal morphs, which is why those DNA test tubes have been laying around, because why should Visor 3 do all the work of approaching and touching the animal himself when he could just have his underlings put their essence in a tube? The Animorphs treat this as a big deal, but really, it's not. How exactly does Visor 3 getting a rhino morph or whatever affect the overall Yeerk invasion of Earth? Most of Visor 3's morphs throughout the book series are only good for brute force or very specific situations. The only morph he ever had that was useful in the invasion was his human morph. Visor 3 only collected those morphs as a personal hobby, and really, why is this so threatening when he can already turn into a dozen impossible monsters from outer space? At the very end of the game, he morphs into that multi-headed dragon monster from the very first book, arguably his most popular morph in the series. Of course, in the game you could just kill that with a couple of llamas, but the point still stands. Him getting a lion morph or whatever in comparison to what he already has doesn't seem that big of a deal. I guess him trying to get a dinosaur morph is a step in the right direction for this subplot, but it's still so far removed from the central conflict, it's just a distraction more than anything else. In any case, you hand Visor 3 his ass and Jake gets the dinosaur morph for himself. What kind of dinosaur was it?
It was hard enough fighting the normal Visor 3. If he acquires that Gorgonopsid, we're done for.
Oh, Gorgonopsid. Okay, an early ancestor of mammals, not technically a dinosaur, and, well, doesn't look a damn thing like that. As for the main plot, it turns out the Yeerks are utilizing local resources to dig out an ancient alien spacecraft that crash-landed centuries ago. Visor 3 naturally wants the advanced technology and an entire army of cryogenically frozen aliens, which aren't much to look at, honestly. I can't imagine these things being more deadly than a manatee, but who knows, maybe they have psychic powers that can blow shit up. While maybe not presented as weighty as it would be, this plot does sound like something you'd actually see in the books. And hell, it's more pressing and serious than the time the Animorphs went to Atlantis. Of course, there's the matter of getting to and back from the secret Yeerk dig site, which brings me to the single worst thing about this game. The minecart minigame. Jesus Christ, where do I begin with this? So you're in a minecart for no reason other than you saw it and thought, what the hell? No, we could have morphed bat and flew undetected through the tunnels, but instead we decided on the method that would draw the most attention and be the most dangerous. The key to this game is not running into walls or obstacles. It basically comes down to you approaching a fork in the tracks and picking to go left and right and then crossing your fingers. If you pick the wrong path and crash into something, you start over from the beginning and do it all over again. It becomes a game of path memorization, one of my personal least favorite types of games, which is the reason I've been avoiding the last 10 years of Sonic the Hedgehog games. What's worse is that if you're going at top speed and don't decide on the turn in the exact right moment, the game will decide for you which path you're going to take, and 9 times out of 10 it'll be the wrong one. The best way to get through this is to bring your minecart to its slowest speed possible and try to work out the right path, but that is completely antithetical to the point of the minigame. Either you go at lightning speed and force yourself to go through the same paths over and over again, or you bring yourself to a crawl and minimize the amount of times you crash. This is not fun! Oh, and you can make the occupants of the cart duck, but that doesn't affect anything. There's no obstacles to duck under. It doesn't alter your momentum. It's just a useless gesture. The game eventually ends with the Animorphs confronting Visor 3 in the crash site, setting it up to self-destruct and making a last-minute escape. So, what moral do the Animorphs take away from all of this?
Well, we did it. We managed to defeat Visor 3 and stop the Yeerk invasion dead in its tracks. And we still have a couple of weeks of summer vacation to have some fun.
It's weird. I feel like something's missing.
That's because there's obviously going to be a sequel.
Well, I can wait for that. I can't say hanging out with Visser 3 all summer was exactly fun, but at least one good thing came out of it.
What's that?
We all got to be better friends.
I think a bit of my breakfast just came up. That's Animorphs Know the Secret. As a game, it's a functional but ultimately boring adventure title that fails to engage the players in any meaningful way. Your actions are completely scripted out and dictated, and you have no sway over the story whatsoever, which shoots down any replay value. One way the designers could have fixed this was to offer the players choices in a kind of choose-your-own-adventure structure. I mean, take the breaking into Chapman's office bit. What if instead of having exactly one way to solve the problem, you were given 3 distinct paths? On top of Rachel morphing gorilla and jumping around the rooftops, you had Cassie morphing an owl and trying to fly through the window, or Marco morphing a cockroach and climbing through the ventilation. The story still progresses in more or less the same way. The only thing that actually changes is which character ends up in the office, but it still allows the player a sense of agency within the story and gives a reason to replay certain parts of the game to reveal the rest of the content. Otherwise, there's nothing here that couldn't be gained from a book, or hell, the Alternamorphs Choose Your Own Adventure books are infinitely more interactive. As an Animorphs game, as I mentioned before, it does the best job out of the 3 games in actually telling a story and giving us the feel of the Animorphs narrative, if not quite right in the details. There aren't a lot of holes in the plot, and it makes the effort to personalize the stakes for the characters and give them a reason to get in harm's way. You might object to the more lighthearted tone, and it can get into some really silly G-rated territory, but it's pretty clear that no adult outside of the Applegate Grant household actually realized the dark heart of the series. Not the video game designers, not the people behind the television show, not anyone who did any of the merchandising. Commenting on this at this stage is like bringing up what's wrong with midichlorians. You're not wrong, but you're starting to get repetitive. Overall, it's a mixed bag, but this is probably the least painful of the 3 games. It doesn't really add up to a great time, though. But enough of this. I've gone on way too long. Join me next time for the PlayStation outing, Animorphs Shattered Reality.
Hey, I got you guys some presents. Actually, they're all the same.
Presents? This is very un-Marco-like.
I spent my summer vacation saving the world from evil aliens, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt.